I will give the word now to Stefan and Daniel. They will introduce themselves, and please, everybody, enjoy this new meetup. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adrian, for the kind words, and I'm happy to be here tonight. I would be rather be in Switzerland today, but yeah, with this COVID thing, I suppose we're all working from home. I've been working from home for 8 months now. So nonetheless, let's try to make it as close to a physical meetup as possible. I don't have any beer here, unfortunately, so I only have a soft drink. But let's get this thing started. And so Daniel and me will show a few demos, and we have a few slides as well regarding Nginx and Nginx UpProtect. So about myself, I'm a solutions engineer at Nginx for 3.5 years now. I am based in Warsaw in Poland. Before that, I was in Cork in Ireland. And my background is more or less the operations side. So I've worked with almost every load balancer, every application server, a lot of web servers, and I work in pre-sales. And that's about me. So I would like to ask Daniel to give a quick introduction of himself as well.
Yes, hello also from my side. I'm Daniel Schuler, also a solution engineer for F5 and Nginx, based in Switzerland, central Switzerland, Baar, between Zürich and Zug, or Lucerne, sorry. And I started 1.5 years ago working for F5, basically just covering the Swiss customers, taking care about them, answering the basic questions, let's say, and then if it really gets complicated, we hand over to our perfect solution engineers like Steffan, which are deeper in the products. Yeah, happy to be here today.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. So the agenda for this meetup we have created is, first of all, the history of Nginx, Nginx open source versus Nginx Plus, Nginx Unit, our lightweight application server. Then I'm showing a demo of Nginx Plus and Nginx Unit. After that, we have some room for Q&A, while Daniel can prepare the Nginx UpProtect demo, and it's a real cool one. I've seen it before. After that, we can go into a conversation and have additional questions and answer them. My first question before we start, or maybe I switch back one slide, would be how many of you are familiar with Nginx? So I don't know whether you could use a thumbs up or put it in the chat like a plus if you're using or if you're familiar with Nginx. Let me just check whether I can.
You can use, there's also a yes and no button on the participants window of Zoom. So you can see there's already 3 people, 4 people, 5 people who have effectively used Nginx.
Okay, that's cool. And how many of you are familiar with Nginx Plus compared to Nginx open source?
And we have only one person who remained saying yes.
Okay, yeah, that is very often the feedback I receive when we're talking about Nginx. So a lot of DevOps are familiar with it, are using Nginx. And to be honest, it was even the same for me when I joined 3.5 years ago. I was very familiar with Nginx open source. I use it a lot, but at that time I hadn't heard of Nginx Plus. So that was new for me as well. And yeah, maybe I can tell a little bit of the Nginx story, how it all started, and how we started Nginx Plus in 2013. So the beginning of Nginx was when Igor, our founder, was working for Rambler.ru, and he constantly ran into issues with high traffic, and he found out that Apache couldn't handle more than 10,000 connections per second. And that was when he started to address the problem, and he started to release Nginx, which a lot of sites, I mean, in particular, since he was based in Russian at first, a lot of Russian sites adopted, a lot of Russian websites used Nginx, and then it simply evolved and it really went big. So a lot of sites, they started to use Nginx. And since then, we have improved a lot, and it is not simply a web server anymore. Although a lot of people who know Nginx, when you talk to people, they say, oh, that's, yeah, of course I know Nginx, it's that web server, right? And that is still true, but we have added a lot of capabilities to both Nginx open source as well as to Nginx Plus. Currently, Nginx is the leader in the high performance web server market. It is the most popular Docker image downloaded from Docker Hub. It is really flexible, so we run on-prem, on hardware, in VMs, public and private clouds, in containers. We have a lot of stuff in microservices. So it is very flexible, and it gives you the opportunity to deploy everywhere, which is really cool. And it doesn't matter whether you are on-prem, whether you are in a private cloud, you can simply deploy Nginx or Nginx Plus the same way wherever you are running your applications. We're used by over 60% of the top 10K websites, more than 50% of the top 1K websites. And I think in total, we're running about 400 million websites up to this day. So there are a lot of websites relying on Nginx, and of course, not only as a web server. Nginx Plus is also a reverse proxy and a load balancer. And I will go through the various use cases. So it's very flexible, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with Nginx and with our whole Nginx platform. And this is the slide which gives an overview of the whole Nginx application platform. So it's not only Nginx anymore, not only Nginx Plus as a web server, as a load balancer, as a reverse proxy. So on top of here, you can see the Nginx controller, which is a platform. It has multiple multiple modules. Currently, it has an ADC module. There is an API management module. There's an analytics module. At a later stage, we will be adding a service mesh module. It has security built in, and it allows you to manage and monitor your running Nginx Plus instances. That is one part of the whole Nginx application platform, where we also have at the heart of it Nginx Plus as a load balancer, as an API gateway, as a content cache, as a web application firewall. And then to the right, it's always worth mentioning that we also have Nginx Unit. Not many people are familiar with it. It is a different product. It is also similar to Nginx Plus. It is very lightweight and has a very high performance, very small memory footprint, and it doesn't have any static configurations. So it is configurable only using an API, and you can switch applications on the fly. You can deploy on the fly. There are a lot of things to do. It's real fun. And for one example, you could replace PHP FPM in production. So we have several customers who use Nginx Unit for their PHP applications, but it is a polyglot application server. So you can not only run PHP, you can run Python, Node.js, Ruby, Go, Java in beta. So it has support for multiple programming languages, and all of these run under one engine. And that will be part of the demo. So I will show Unit and how to reconfigure it on the fly. About Nginx UpProtect, our web application firewall. Daniel will show a cool demo about that later. And the one component of our whole platform, which isn't on this picture, at least I don't see it, is the Kubernetes ingress controller, which is also part of the Nginx platform. So just to mention it, in addition to Nginx Plus, we have a lot of other products. It's a whole platform, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with Nginx and all the parts of the Nginx platform. We'll just briefly touch the differences between Nginx open source and Nginx Plus. So there are a few differentiators between Plus and open source. The performance is the same. So the lightweight open source is also performance-wise very good, as is Nginx Plus. So we have a few features which are only available with an Nginx Plus subscription. And those are, for example, session persistence, advanced cache control, application health checks, and we will also see these in my demo. So these aren't included in Nginx open source. They are only available in Nginx Plus. There are a few more like JSON Web Token validation and a few other features, but just to mention some of them, the graceful reconfiguration and live binary updates, that is included in both. So you have in-grade or in-place upgrades without any downtime, both with open source and with Plus. The on-the-fly load balancing configuration using APIs or using DNS service discovery, that is only available in Plus. Same goes for the live activity monitoring and the key value store. Those are only available in Plus. High availability is something that we supply out of the box with an active Nginx Plus subscription. So there's no need to use any homegrown or any home built configuration for that. We include that out of the box. Remote syslogging, that is of course possible with both. And there are more, but these are just for production, some rather really relevant differentiators between Nginx Plus and Nginx open source. And since I've been working with Plus for more than 3 years now, for me, they are just so given. So I take them for granted. And for example, with those active health checks, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about maintenances or taking any nodes down, because with Nginx Plus, you don't have to, because you're actively monitoring your backends. And if they don't respond in the way that you expect, they will be automatically taken out of the pool and be added again once they become healthy again. But we will see this in my demo later as well. The ways to get Nginx Plus, with an active subscription, you get access to our private repos where you can download Nginx Plus and any subsequent updates. We support all the enterprise Linux distributions as well as FreeBSD. And on top of that, we have a list of certified third-party dynamic modules, which are also supported for NGINX Plus subscribers. So NGINX Plus is fully supported, and in production environments, also these certified third-party modules are of course also supported by NGINX staff. And now I would like to start with NGINX Unit, our application server. It is a server built from scratch. It is built by the same developers who created NGINX. It is dynamic, multilingual, so it supports multiple languages. It has the same development culture as NGINX, since it's built by the same developers, and it is very optimized, focused on performance and optimization, and it's open source and it's free. So you can simply start testing it by simply issuing a few Docker commands and then run applications on NGINX Unit. It has a very low learning curve, so there isn't much to prepare in order to give it a try, to evaluate it. Maybe you're thinking about migrating from PHP FPM to something more flexible. You can also do rollbacks on the fly. For example, you could change from PHP 7.3 to 7.4. Maybe things go wrong. After that, you can do a rollback with one API call and have your existing application going back to the previous PHP version. So it is very flexible, and I can only recommend giving it a try. I will show a few examples during my demo, and I will also show how to get it and how to configure it. As I said previously, it is dynamic by design. So any changes are applied instantly. It doesn't reload or restart. Nonetheless, the changes are persistent. So if you reconfigure unit, it stores its configuration persistently. So the next time, let's say you shut it down, and the next time you start it, it will continue where it left off. So it doesn't start without any configuration. It is persistent. But any configurations using the API, they are instant. And as I said, it doesn't have any static configuration files. So the only way to make changes are using the REST API. Changes without interruptions, that is very similar to NGINX Plus. I mean, we all don't want any downtime at all. So that fits. It is API controlled, and it uses a REST API. You learn one easy REST interface, and with a standard JSON payload that you already know how to work with, you can deploy your applications, you can create listeners, you can reconfigure those applications. And yeah, we will have a look at it during the demo. Multilingual, I said that. PHP, Python, Perl, Ruby, Java, Node.js, or Go. All of these can be deployed even in multiple versions. All apps have the same config approach. So we will have a look at the JSON and what you can configure for these applications. All applications, they run on the same server. And the cool thing about it is, let's say one of your applications crashes, it doesn't take down your whole application server. I remember in the past, for example, a Tomcat, if you had one Java application that misbehaved, in the worst case, it would take down your whole Tomcat. With NGINX Unit, that's different. So all of these applications, they are isolated. And if you have one application that goes down, the other applications aren't affected. So they will continue to run, the listener will still be there, and your applications will continue to run, although this one particular application may crash. But the Nginx unit can handle this. So we isolate these applications, and this is, of course, for the microservices approach, very important when you use microservices. You can have a lot of applications under this particular unit server. We will have a look at this at the demo. So there's the controller process, the main process, the router process, and below that you have all of these application processes. So this is how the communication actually works between the router process and the application process, and that's also the way where it's or why it scales very well. This is an example for an application. You simply create one listener on 8081 in this case. In this case, it's a block. You have a PHP application. You can create the number of processes, even the max number of processes and the number of spares to keep. Where the deployment for this application is, you can change or configure the user and group the application runs under. So it is really easy to have multiple applications. And what you can additionally do, of course, is you have the same application running on multiple listeners. So you could create another application on 8082 and change that from one particular PHP version to another. Encrypt and authenticate with Nginx. So Nginx as a load balancer or as a reverse proxy in front of Unit. You can terminate the TLS there, although Unit, of course, supports also TLS. And another thing I want to show later in my demo is the dynamic TLS certificates. Unit had that earlier than Nginx Plus. So in the beginning, you could change certificates and keys on Nginx Unit, while that wasn't possible on Nginx Plus. After the release of Nginx R18, we have this functionality in Nginx Plus as well. So in those cases where you terminate TLS on the Nginx side, we can also have dynamic certificates and change them using APIs. And this is the part now where I would stop the slides and switch to Nginx and to Nginx Unit. And in this case, I'm showing the static dashboard of Nginx Plus. So as you can see here, I'm running Nginx Plus R22. There are several TLS connections going on. The current number of requests, we have a few HTTP zones, and we have multiple HTTP upstreams. And this is what we deliver with Nginx Plus. So you can configure this dashboard. It is it consumes all the metrics from Nginx, which are available as JSON objects. And this is also a very big difference compared to Nginx open source. So when you look at the basic dashboard or the basic status of Nginx, this is what you normally get. This is what you normally get from an Nginx instance from Nginx open source. So you have the active connections, the current number of write requests, current number of readings, and the current waiting processes. So that's a big difference between Nginx Plus and the basic status of Nginx open source. And when we go one step deeper into our actual upstreams, and this is what I'm using for this demo, we have one backend which serves the static HTML. And then we have a few backends. There is a Java 11 backend. There is a Java 8 backend, a Perl backend, a PHP backend, and a Python backend. And currently all of these are showing up here in green. All of these are healthy. So let's have a look at this demo applications and what they look like. So this is a frame set where all of the frames are simply refreshing with a simple meta refresh header. And I have these two Java frames here on top. Then there comes the PHP application. Then I'm running the Python application, and the Hello Zurich from Unit is running in the lower frame in this case. So all of these applications run on Nginx Unit, and I have one Nginx Plus in front of them, which is corresponding to this load balancer. So the HTML has only one backend. This is the static HTML which is served, and all of these are getting content from the unit backends. And now let's have a look what is running on the load balancer and what is running on the actual backends. So I start with the unit processes and grab for unit. So this corresponds to the previous slide. So we have one main process. There is the controller. There is the router process. And then we have all of these application processes. And I have configured some of them to run under nobody. Some of them are running as Nginx. And these can be reconfigured using the REST API. Now, on the Nginx Plus side, we can have a look what is running here. So there is Nginx Plus running, one master process and one worker process. That's what Nginx does by default. So with the auto setting and the default settings, Nginx creates one worker process per CPU core. And since I'm running everything locally here, let's have a look what we have. So there's only one CPU on this node. So that is the reason why there is one worker process only. If you use the auto setting and let's say you assign 48 cores, then you will have 48 worker processes, and all of these, they communicate using shared memory, which is also another reason why scaling works very well on Nginx Plus, because all of these workers, they share the memory, and there is no complex interprocess communication or anything. And that is also the reason why Nginx performs so well and scales so well. Now, what I want to do in this case with one particular application is now, when you have a look at the frames, you see that in the center frame, the PHP application switches a simple round robin from backend 1 to backend 2. So there's nothing fancy about that. The load balancer has simply configured round robin for all of the backends, which means that all of the application are, or each of the frames also comes by a simple round robin from each of the backends. And when you look at the top frame, you will notice that it's sometimes showing the output of this is a Java 11 response, and the next time it refreshes, it will show this is a Java 8 response. So I have prepared one of the two nodes with Java 11 already, which is similar to the second frame. So the Java 11 application has already been deployed on backend 1. And now I want to do the same on backend 2 by using the API and reconfigure this particular node or this unit configuration to also switch this application from Java 8 to Java 11. Let's have a look at my Jenkins configuration. I've created a few jobs. Now in the switch to JDK 11 job, I have a configuration which will issue using curl a put call with the content of this JSON file on a local socket and apply this configuration so that we are switching the Java 8 configuration to Java 11. Now let's have a look what this looks like on the node where the Jenkins slave is running. So these are the various ports for all of these applications. And what I'm doing now is I switch the Java 8 to Java 11, which is a JSP residing in SRV demo Java 11. So this is the simple switch from the Java 8 application to Java 11. This is the type. So previously it was Java 8. Now we're switching this to Java 11. And let's have a look when we build this project actually now. Okay. This has been built. And let's have a look at the console output. This is the important one. So success reconfiguration done. And now let's have a look what we are getting on the next refresh. So right now it is showing this as a Java 11 response. And since we have changed this particular backend, let me reload it on the load balancer where it was current or previously doing a round robin between Java 8 and Java 11. And now let me reload this. So it is not doing the round robin load well, it is still doing the round robin load balancing still, but since we have deployed the Java 11 on the second node, now we are only getting the Java 11 response, so no more Java 8 for this particular frame. So this is rather a rather simple example how to simply switch. Of course, you could do the same with this 5.4 version of PHP. So I would highly recommend using 7.4. And additionally, you can change this to PHP 7.4 and vice versa if you want to do a rollback or if you want to go to 7.3. And the same is true for all of those other applications. Of course, you can deploy new applications. You can simply change the listeners. So it's really flexible. It is really fast. And to give you an idea how easy it is to use Nginx Unit. So we provide Docker images for Nginx Unit. So in one example, you could simply Docker run Nginx Unit and you're good to go. Of course, there is some configuration needed later. There are some applications needed, but as I said, it does have a really small learning curve. So hello world is rather easy to simply deploy. And of course, if you have Nginx Plus in front of it, with an active health check, of course, there isn't really anything that could go wrong, because additionally, with those active health checks that we have in Nginx, let me just show you one of the additional features of Nginx Plus is, let's say now this node, or I could use the other node, since all of these are checked by Nginx using an active health check. The minute one of these applications doesn't respond in an expected way, they will be taken out of the pool. And now with the Nginx configuration, I have this unit conf. I have active health checks for each and every of my applications. So the PHP application requires to be with of a content type text HTML. It has to respond with a status 200, and in the body I expect a regular expression, so which contains PHP. And only as long as my backend application running under unit responds with this particular string, only then the application will be considered healthy. And let's have a look. The PHP or the Python, those are things I have configured to be present in the response of these applications. So let's have a look what they look like. So PHP is obviously in the response in multiple times. The Python is also in the response. And now what we can do additionally is, let's shut the whole unit down. So now that we have simply removed one backend, the load balancer still is responding the way we expected. Let's have a look if unit is completely down. So there are no processes running. Unit is completely down. And now let's have a look at our Nginx dashboard. So what we can see here now is that the first application server is always down. And while we're continuing to get traffic with these refreshing frames, of course, it cannot load balance to the first node anymore because we have shut that one down. So we only send traffic to backend 2 now. But what Nginx does in the background, as long as there is incoming traffic, it will try to continue to reach the first node. And once it comes up again, this node will be added to the pool again. So as I mentioned earlier, for maintenance, let's just assume we are rebooting this server. You can assume that your live traffic will continue to run as long as you have enough backends to cover the traffic. And now we can start unit again. And let's see. While it is starting up, we should see that the health checks on the next reload are getting green again. So the Perl has already been loaded, the Java 8, Java 11, So the Python hasn't been loaded yet. It hasn't passed yet. But once all of the backends are healthy again, then we can have a look at the load balancer again. And we see that we are balancing between 1 and 2 again. So this makes it really easy to take nodes out without reconfiguring Nginx for maintenances. In fact, I can just shut down one backend and Nginx will handle this and take the node out of the pool instantly. And another thing I have for my demo, because it also shows this dynamic approach using REST APIs, is the reconfiguration of TLS certificates and TLS keys. So since Nginx R18, we have in-memory TLS certificate storage. And this might be useful in these cases where you either cannot or are not supposed to store certificates and keys on the local file system, or where you have a central certificate store and you simply want to update certificates without having them on the local file system. Let's say you have, I don't know, a pool of 100 Nginx instances and you're being audited and the auditor suggests that you do not have any certificates and or keys on the local file system. So we can use the integrated key value store for this. And this is these are the directives in Nginx Plus where you're terminating TLS. And we can also change this data on the fly without the need to reload or even restart Nginx. So we are simply changing the certificate on the fly using a simple API call. And when I go back to my demo, in this case, we can have a look at the certificate. And you see that this one expired last year on the 29th of December. And that's not something you really want to see, you ever want to see in production. So let's have a look how to replace the certificate on the fly by using simple API call. And for this, I have also created a Jenkins job, which is this one. So let's have a look at the configuration of this particular job. What we're doing here is we're using a patch command with a host name and the private key and the certificate, the new certificate. So they are in X509 PEM format. For an initial configuration, you would use a post instead of the patch method in this case. And let us have a look what happens when we're actually building this particular job. So I'm building it now, and it simply issues using curl. It simply issues the patch command or the patch method. And let's have a look at the console output so we can see the key and certificate. And this was, of course, also a success. And it outputs the private key and the certificate for this particular host name. And now I have to open either a guest window or use a different browser for so that Chrome realizes I'm doing a new handshake to the new host. And of course, this is a self-signed certificate and it hasn't been accepted yet. So I'm accepting it, and let's have a look what we see for the new certificate. So this new certificate expires on Wednesday the 1st, 2021. And we haven't changed the configuration of Nginx Plus. Normally, you have them somewhere in the file system. You have the PEM files there and reload your web server. In this case, we have simply issued an API call and replaced the certificate and the key on the fly. This is one method. So there are additional methods. We can also integrate with console vault, for example, but it makes it really easy to create this in a CI/CD pipeline. Make sure that your TLS certificates are up to date without the need to store them somewhere locally on the file system. And I think this is a great functionality. We also have lazy loading that, for example, you have thousands of hosts, whether you're using dynamic certificates or whether you have them on the file system. Nginx has a lazy loading approach. So the certificate and key are only read the first time they are requested. So even if you have, as I said, more than 1,000 hosts with different keys and certificates, Nginx Plus does not have to read all of these on the initial start or on a restart or on a reload. So this also makes it very efficient and it saves time. I remember using other web servers when you had such an amount of TLS hosts, it would take ages to initially start this web server. So we're circumventing that. And let me have a look at the dashboard and the current state we're in now. So everything is green. This is the one per process failed, but this doesn't matter because since we have those active health checks, and I'm expecting a certain response from also from the Perl application, even if it goes down once in this case, the Nginx makes sure it is only sending traffic to the healthy backend. And here we are back again, load balancing between the two nodes. And that's it really from my side. I'm not covering any security parts because that is what Daniel will show using his demos. Let me open the PowerPoint agenda as well. So maybe we can have a few Q&As regarding Nginx Plus and Nginx Unit while Daniel can fire up his environment. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Exactly. Somebody in the audience would like to ask something to Steffan? Any questions? No? Well, in that case,
People are quiet.
Thanks a lot, Steffan, for this great.
We have a question. We have a question in the chat window.
Ah, there's a question in the chat window. Yeah, you're right.
Does Nginx Unit work with C?
C#?
Exactly.
No, it doesn't. I mean, we have had questions for .NET, but as far as I know, there isn't currently any development on C#. No, currently not.
Somebody else? Good. Well, in that case, thanks a lot, Steffan, for this great presentation. And Daniel, your turn.
Thank you.
Yes, I would
like to talk about Nginx App Protect, and let's see if I can control the presentation from here. No, so I will share my screen then.
I stopped sharing.
Yes, I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
We can see your screen, yes.
Perfect. Let's go to present. So I have only a few slides, not that much. Today we see a lot of changes, and especially I also had the experience in my past company I was working for. I was originally hired as a network and security engineer, and with the time being, our CEO and CTO said, look, we have to move on and lift and shift our application to a cloud, public cloud, rewriting our legacy code, just being something new in the end. And I mean, we were measured in how fast we could ship an application and not how secure it was. So security today in the modern infrastructure, it has to comply, it has to be friendly, and it has to protect in the end still your application, because we did not change any need to the history, let's say. And I always compare it to a cycle lock. The more complicated it does, or the heavier it is to carry it around, you never use it, or you never apply it in the end. So we introduced this summer a new product, and it's actually the first one that was built with F5 and Nginx together. Nginx was acquired 1.5 years ago. I don't know if we mentioned that before. So there is no change basically to make Nginx in the future closed source. We just try to combine the best together from both sides. And one point we were strong at the F5 side was the security part, and with Nginx we gained the speed and the flexibility in the end. And Nginx App Protect should basically address that first. It's not the security that measures in the end. Like I said, you can have the best security in place, but if it's complicated to apply, you're never going to use it. And with Nginx App Protect, we built the product that is CI friendly. You can use it in every environment. You can, for example, run it as a sidecar proxy for your pod on Kubernetes. You can have it on your Kubernetes ingress controller. You can have it as an edge load balancer. You can have it on your API gateway, and it should protect your full application stream. All this sounds very nice, but in the end it has to be and act like this. So Nginx App Protect is building on a declarative WAF policy that you attach to your well-known reverse proxy configuration or ingress configuration for Kubernetes. And in the end, everything is based on signatures. So you don't need to tune a WAF policy to protect your application in the end. Yeah, and that's basically what I plan to say in regards to my slides. I like demos, so I'll directly move on to my demo. And what I built, I deployed a Kubernetes cluster, and you can see here all the resources. I hope it's big enough. So you see here the stuff deployed in kube system is from Kubernetes, already a bit older. I did the latest update 14 days ago. The rest, if we, for example, check what's in the kube namespace Nginx ingress controller, it's my 4 ingress controller that are running on my 4 nodes that schedule pods. And then to show you something, to show you some applications. I deployed 3 different type of applications. So the first one, the Arcadia app that we see here, is a banking application. Then you have the then vulnerable web app and the hackathon that I deployed on the system. To actually get started with the Kubernetes ingress controller, you can find on GitHub the official repository. It covers some very well prepared examples. So for example, here the complete one with the hello world application called coffee. So you can start everything well explained. It links you here to the official documentation on Nginx. So you go to the Nginx installation, you basically follow the path that you see here. Either you would like to start with Nginx Plus if you already have something from us, or you can have a test key from myself if you wish. So in the end, just let me know. Then you have the install methods with manifests, Helm, and yes. That's from this side. So my example that I show you today is also based on the deployments that we have here in this official available repository. If we go to my deployment, I have here the basic deployments. So interesting for our WAF use case that we have today. Nginx App Protect, what I would like to show you is on my Kubernetes ingress controller. And all I need to do in my global configuration, I deploy a custom resource, which includes all the configuration. And this is the default configuration that is available for you in the examples in the official repository. This includes, for example, all the backend server technologies that are available. We have here for sure Nginx, I mean Python, stuff that is available in the market today. And those properties here or items are then actually the signature set that you get from us or download from Nginx officially. If we move on in this configuration file, you don't have to follow everything here. I just want to go up a bit. We get here to the items, what kind of violations we in the end would like to protect. So we have, what is a good example here? So we should find somewhere cross-site scripting protecting. We have WebSocket protection that we can offer with Nginx App Protect. So that's in the end the violations that can occur on your application. When we start, yeah, like I said, you don't need to understand this really in detail. Interesting for you is if you run a Kubernetes ingress controller, you usually have your deployment. This is an Nginx Plus deployment with not the latest version. The latest version that is out is 1.9.0. Use for this demo today 1.8.1. So it's the basics that we have here. The annotation for Prometheus is still enabled, but I did not deploy Prometheus yet. So you can send, or Prometheus can get the data from your ingress controller. Important for the Nginx Plus subscription is that we, for example, set here this Nginx Plus argument. We have some the default config maps mentioned, the default TLS certificates. We specify that we would like to have app protect in the end. This is our main focus now. And I changed just the start site that you saw before also on Steffan's presentation or demo. And to have it available outside of my cluster, a simple node port configuration. Besides that, I have my 3 mentioned applications. If we, for example, check this vulnerable web app, it just includes the deployment with the container I choose for it, the service that we built on top, then the ingress controller definition, and that's as well a standard ingress controller configuration for all, and all deployments look the same. So no protection yet applied, but this is something you usually see in your daily life if you already work with Kubernetes. Yes, let's go to the dashboard. I also have here this very nice Nginx Plus dashboard with HTTP zones, the applications that are deployed. The last one here, I mentioned only 3 before, is for the dashboard to expose that, and then the upstreams. Compare or the difference to the dashboard that we saw before with Steffan is that we actually see the pods here deployed on our Kubernetes cluster. Also, they are changed, so updated if a pod gets terminated and the new one is ready. You see this live updated. And just covering quickly the ingress controller, Kubernetes usually allows you not to specify any load balancing method to your backend pod. So if you just use your services, it's randomly, it's not even round robin. And with the Nginx ingress controller for Kubernetes, you get all the functionalities that you know from a basic load balancer. It's also well known. I mean, most of the discussions today with our customers start with the Kubernetes ingress controller, because the open source version already delivers very nice features that are mostly good enough to go if you start with your first Kubernetes experience and would like to have a nice ingress control. Then yes, I hope the applications are still ready. So we have here the applications that are deployed. And if we do a test here, let's say we try an SQL injection, we see that it's actually working. Let's say the cross-site scripting attack. Hello, we get the feedback. Same on our hacking page. So my application is moving on. I don't know anything about that I'm actually got hacked at the moment. If we would like to protect, and I will stay on, let's say, on this one. If we would like to protect our application, we have on our installed Kubernetes ingress controller on already our app protect. All we need to change for our ingress controller definition is actually those 5 annotations. Usually, or this, let's say, is the custom resource for our declarative app policy, but it does not do anything special for this application. It includes all the violations that we saw. It includes all the server technologies that we saw. It includes all the application languages and so on, and it's on blocking. I have also the chance to say, look, I would like to start with the WAF policy in place, but I actually does not like to have my WAF policy doing any blocking. So I could run it in transparent mode to check if I have any false positive. The nice thing about App Protect that we see today, we have more or less 0 false positives that occur. And this is a nice thing because it really scales. If you, for example, use mod security that was in place on Nginx Plus and is still on Nginx open source, you always had to check and maintain your policy rule set. And that was exactly what I meant before with your cycling lock. You don't use it if it's too complicated to apply. And with this definition, a SecOps engineer can easily execute that on the Kubernetes cluster as well. Is then taken care in your CI/CD pipeline, for example, that you add those 5 annotations, and your application is protected. The rest, the specs down here did not change. Let's see if we can protect application. So if we say we see here our ingress controllers that are in place. Just to describe Hackathon ingress, you basically see the usual ingress controller definition that is up and running on our Kubernetes cluster. If we quickly do the same for our demo on the web app, we see that Kubernetes deployed the new definition of our ingress controller with the annotations for App Protect. And if we go back, what was the SQL injection? Let's see, I hope it's working and we don't face the usual demo effect. And this is, if you're familiar with the 5 products, this is the response page that you get if your request was blocked because there is something malicious. If we would have a log server in place, like an ELK cluster, I could take this support ID because I think my request should not be blocked. I could take that, get to my support, give them the support ID. They could check the ELK cluster or something else, what you use, Grafana. You can build your Grafana dashboards with Prometheus, check what did cause that my request here was blocked. You would then see that this was an SQL injection. Same if we run our cross-site script attack here, it gets blocked. Yeah, that's it. I mean, this should really show that with Nginx App Protect, we built a product that is nice and easy to implement, because I think that's the strongness of it. You cannot go to your company and say, look, we have here this very, very super nice, expensive security tools, and no one likes to apply it. And yeah, Nginx App Protect should also become open source available. It's on the roadmap. I cannot give any numbers when it will be exactly. It should be somewhere next year. So you should also profit from this product in the open source version, hopefully soon. And yeah, any questions?
I don't think there are any questions. Maybe somebody? I don't think so. Well, in that case, thanks a lot, Daniel, for this great presentation. And basically, I don't know if there's a general question that the audience would like to ask regarding Nginx, regarding the subjects we've seen today. Feel free to chip in, just unmute yourselves and ask whatever comes to your mind. In normal times, there would be beer, of course.
Yeah.
In normal times, we also would be able to hand out nice merch. So if you would like to have some stickers or whatever, just let us know. Add a comment in the chat window. We can send us used stuff, so no problem.
Absolutely, swag. So leave your address, some swag, and that will be it's very nice of you guys. Good. So in that case, if there are no more questions, I think we can free this room. And I would like to thank a lot Steffan and Daniel for this great introduction. It was, I think, very interesting, a very good first meetup. We'll be announcing the next dates of the upcoming editions of this meetup soon in the channel, in meetup.com as usual, and on our Twitter accounts and so on, LinkedIn as well. So feel free to follow us. And thanks everybody for attending. Thanks to the speakers, and see you soon for a new edition. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.